Hello. I hope you are well and that you're enjoying the Christmas weekend, however you celebrate it, or if you just enjoy the weekend at home with your family, friends, or whatever it is you're doing. I hope you're having a good time. And I wasn't going to do a live today, but I decided that actually I would. And the reason I wanted to do it is because I thought it was good to talk about what's going on with my Swahili challenge and also to talk about something else, which is um, the talks I'm having at the moment with different people and formulating my ideas around how to help as many people as possible in the language journey. And so I decided that it would be a really good opportunity to catch up. And also, I enjoy your company so much. So good to be back. Today, I had my 5th lesson of Swahili on italki with Glory, and it was really, really enjoyable. I love the Swahili lessons. They're really interesting for me to sort of get into a different type of language that I've never really studied before. It's the verb forms and how they all sort of are different to the other languages that I speak. And yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it. And there are some similarities, obviously, because there's some Arabic influence, and I've got some very basic background in Arabic, but also some of the words that I see in Swahili are interesting because you see them in Turkish as well. And obviously, Turkish has had a huge influence on the languages of the Balkans, and also the Turkish that I studied helps me to have a bit of an insight into that. Now, I thought it was interesting to talk about Duolingo a little bit because I hear many, many different things about it. And since I've been doing this challenge, I completely understand, what some people say. Some people are like, really, why bother with Duolingo? It goes really slowly. And I'll be honest, I'm not quite at the first checkpoint yet, Duolingo for Swahili. So I thought that I would probably get through the whole course um, within the month. But that's actually going way slower than I expected. And I think it's going slowly because it does take quite a lot of time and effort to turn all of these little circles purple. And that means that you've basically mastered the contents of each circle. Now, I could motor through the whole course and just get the little crowns, and then it opens up the new ones and go through it. But I'm not a huge fan of just motoring through a course. And the reason I'm not a fan of motoring through a course is that a language is something you need to learn so well that it becomes automatic. And if you're going so quickly through a course, you're actually not giving yourself time to really internalize the materials. So I prefer not to finish the whole course in the month and really know what I've done. And this is something where I've had conversations over the last month or so with different people about their studies. And one of the things that I think is quite common for us to do is to take a course book and go through chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 until you get to the end. But then you realize, actually, do you know what? I don't remember half of what I've read. I don't remember half of what I supposedly have studied. And it's not because you're stupid, and it's not because you can't learn it. It's because we tend to rush through things because we like to go to the next level. And this is kind of the reason why I'm not a huge gamification person, because I'm not all about the levels. I'm more about the knowledge and the journey to get to the knowledge. And and so this does actually take a fair amount of time. My guess is that at the end of the month, I will possibly be towards towards the end of level 2 of this checkpoint 2, towards checkpoint 2. Um, and I may or may not then carry on and do some extra Swahili. I've not decided yet because I'm doing this in my winter break where I don't have other classes and I have time to dedicate to Swahili. I actually really, really enjoy doing Swahili. I think it's a rewarding language, and I really enjoy working with Glory. She's actually really quite a nice person to have the lessons with. And if you see any of the lessons that I've been doing, I'll be leaving them all up there so that if you watch this video, or you can watch the videos at any time and learn Swahili to where I get to over what will be, I guess, 10 lessons, maybe roughly around 10 lessons it will be. And I hope that you will enjoy it. But my plan is to do that, is to just carry on and see where I get to with it. Now, I agree that some things in Duolingo, some of the critique that I've heard, I am kind of aware of and agree with. And one of the things is some of the language that I'm taught, some of the words that I'm taught are quite odd. So I find it odd that I've learnt the word for a sapling, that I've learnt the word for a bucket, that I've learnt the word for a broom. These are words that I wouldn't expect to learn in a language at this stage. And then there are other words I still don't know. So yes, it's been fun, but also there are some very odd things that I've learned, which I would not expect to learn until quite a bit later, actually, in my language learning journey. I don't know how often these kinds of words come across, but maybe there's some logic. It feels a bit like it's quite random. The other thing that I would say is that there are possibly other things that I could prioritize if I was studying this normally. Not on Duolingo, I could ignore some of the words, but because of the gamification of Duolingo, you have to basically master these words to keep going through. I mean, okay, I could not master them, but I don't think it makes much sense just getting one of these. When you just have the 1 crown, you don't actually know that much of what you're doing. You've just basically gone through it a little bit. It's only when you've really turned them purple that it feels like it's really internalized. For me, anyway. I don't know about for you, but and it takes, as I say, it takes a long time to do that. But then the words that you learn are not necessarily words that you'd expect to use. Now, were I focusing my energy on different vocabulary, I could potentially say a bit more than I can say right now in Swahili. As it is, I can say certain things in Swahili, and it works. If you watch my latest video from today, I was making sentences quite spontaneously. Nothing, nothing earth-shattering. I'm not sort of writing, William Shakespeare's entire works in Swahili or anything like that, but I can definitely say a few things spontaneously that I want to say instead of just like saying really random sentences. The other thing that I will say about Duolingo here is that I've not had the very odd sentences so much in Swahili. I've seen them posted in memes for many languages, but I've fortunately not had too many of the very, very odd expressions or phrases that they tend to use, which I'm glad about. The other thing that I find a little bit weird is that if I were to do this on its own, if I were to just go through Duolingo on its own, I don't see where the grammatical explanations are. So when I'm going through, for example, the different word forms, it's just sort of you learn them, and you learn sort of a plural and a singular of a noun, and you don't really know why it's changing or anything like that. So I don't quite get how you would just do that from Duolingo. So I would definitely recommend either lessons with a teacher, or at least have other materials that you have to understand what's going on behind it. Also, for Swahili, for example, I mean, when I went through with Glory, we did the present tense, but Glory taught me the past, preterite, and future tenses together with the present tense. And when I look at this, I see that the tenses are quite far down. The tenses aren't actually that difficult. I don't know whether I would do it as Duolingo does it or not. I possibly would still split them out, just because for somebody who's used to learning languages and seeing these patterns, maybe for me that was something quite normal to do. But it possibly would be confusing if you were new to Swahili. I'm seeing here there is a grammar apparently here if you click on tips. Okay, thank you for the tip there. So if you click on tips, I will see the grammar. So if I go on to Mimi, let me just see if I can see. I can't see it. Is it possible that it's not on for every single language, or it's just certain languages that have tips? I don't know. I can't see it at the moment, but if anybody knows where I can see the grammar for Swahili, please do let me know. At the moment, I don't see the tips thing, and if I click on one of these, it doesn't necessarily say. It just gives me the opportunity to carry my legendary, which is this kind of mastery of a topic. But if you do know that, then please do let me know. I'm always very happy to sort of learn more about it as well. And some of you have a lot more. The grammar is there. Click on tips, click on present, and then tips. Present. Oh, present, okay. Okay, no, I don't have, so if I click on present, I don't have tips. Then it just lets me start the lesson. So I think maybe, yeah, it could be, maybe it's the website. Yeah, I could try maybe looking on the website and see. So on the application, you don't get this option to look at tips or grammar. I've not seen any options yet, but yeah, as I say, if any of you do know something I'm missing, then please do let me know. It's actually quite enjoyable going through it. I'm surprised how much I've enjoyed it. I do feel like I spend a lot of time on just getting to this mastery level. In fact, yeah, as I say, I thought I would have finished more than I have in the time that I've spent on it, because I'm doing at least an hour a day, maybe a little bit more on Swahili. I don't unfortunately have the same time available as I had for Estonian. I was doing like 3-4 hours a day on Estonian for a month, whereas this I'm doing like an hour a day. But what I will say is with Swahili, and it could just be Swahili here, because different languages have different feels about them, and sort of how you are able to say things and express things. But Swahili seems to be a language that you can start expressing things fairly quickly. So as soon as you start knowing the verb forms and how to conjugate the verbs, you can start saying more and more things fairly quickly with Swahili, and I enjoy that, because it gives me some great feedback from my teacher when I start to spontaneously create things, and that gives me more motivation to learn more. And of course, I'd love to learn more now that I've got into it a little bit. It's kind of one of those things it's addictive, right? When you start getting that feedback and you start saying things, it's one of those things that you really enjoy. Learning more and doing more and saying more and all that kind of stuff. And this kind of leads me on to what else I've been doing. So the last week or so, I've been having conversations with a number of people who wanted to study with me, and I've not finalized where I am with this yet. Obviously, teaching languages and selling courses or anything isn't what I do. In spite of what some people may say, it's not what I do. I actually don't work in that field usually. I have done this as for the past year as a favor to friends, family friends, their children, and I really enjoy doing it. And so I started in February, with working with somebody who needed to pass their exams for German at university. And so we worked together for, well, until September. Unfortunately, they passed their 4 exams that they had remaining, and then we carried on. And now what we do is we work on texts, and we make comparisons between native language and German, and it's not in English, but native language and German, and we discuss how the etymologies are different between the two languages, and how the German way of constructing a sentence and the way of thinking and the thinking behind the sentence and the feelings those words will then elicit because of their etymological connections, how that differs between that language and the other language. And I've really, really enjoyed doing that. It's been a lot of fun. I've also been working on Irish with a friend from Twitter, and we have been just studying Irish together since September, doing it 3 times a week and going through a course together. And we were both very much beginners in Irish, and still are not. We're still not fluent or anything at all, of course, after only a few months of study. But we are starting to build up our knowledge of Irish, and using a course online, which has been an awful lot of fun. And because of those kinds of experiences that I've had, I wanted to really put that forward and work with more people, because I really enjoy doing that. And so, yeah, I've been talking to some people who are interested in working with me on studying languages, and I've really enjoyed those conversations. And there are a few things that I've noticed. One is that we all kind of suffer from similar kinds of issues when it comes to study. There are certain things that we have in common, certain things that we don't. Some of us are extremely motivated, but then sort of organizing our time and organizing and being structured, or getting to use it, or knowing what to do and when to do it, can be the bigger issues, right? So that's one of the things that I've noticed that comes up again and again. Other things that I've seen are with sort of prioritizing language choices sometimes for people who want to study a number of languages. So which language should I study and why? And it's a lot of talking through what those reasons are, what the language choices are, and why, and making decisions, sometimes hard decisions, on how to prioritize a language over another. And all of these things for me have shown me that when we talk about language learning, it's a very personal thing. It's a very personal journey. And I think that's why when we talk about books, or when we talk about courses or tutors or coaches or mentors or whatever, for many of us, we need to have a kind of a personalized version to help us move forward with our journey in the learning process. And so I guess the same way as when we go to the gym, it's good to work with somebody who's very familiar with typical issues that we face at the gym doing workouts, or people who work with dietitians, or with anything in life. I mean, you name it, and it doesn't seem to make a difference how well we've done it in the past, or we can all sometimes be in need of that kind of encouragement and support. And I sometimes have to remind myself as well of this kind of stuff. So it's been really, really interesting to do it, and I've really appreciated it. And over the next week, I'll be talking to more people, and I'm looking at how I can maybe form groups for people to get together, to talk, to practice, to ask questions, more things like this that will be more interactive. I'm going to continue with the Sunday lives, but I would also like to work with groups of people as well, to ask questions that are very specific, and see what I can give back to you all. So yeah, any thoughts or any issues that you have and you want to mention them, feel free to let me know, and I can see how I can design these lives, but also any subsequent talks and things that I do, so that they're helpful to you. For me, that's the important thing, is that they're helpful to you. And what I will aim to do, like with the Polyglot Conference, I will aim to make it as if you can't contribute towards, say, for example, some of the running costs of doing this kind of thing, then I'll make it affordable or completely free. I don't really want to charge people money for this kind of thing, but I would like to definitely make sure I cover my own costs. I can't like, if I will definitely need a new Zoom license, because the ones that we have at the conference don't always cover me, unless they're being used for something else, not being used for something else. So there are going to be some things that I'll need to pay for, but otherwise I would be very, very happy to organize as much as I possibly can for as many people as possible. Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of where I am with my studies, and where I am with my thoughts on where we're going with sort of giving you the help you need for your language learning. I really want to have the biggest impact possible, And I share these lessons that I'm doing in Swahili, not necessarily just for Swahili, but also to sort of show you how I learn, and so you can see the kind of thing I go through with Swahili. And doing it over 10 lessons, I think, gives you a bit of an insight into my world, into how I play with the language, and I laugh at myself, and I laugh about with the teacher, and how I'm trying to make it fun, and how I try and memorize words by making links and connections to things that I already know. And I hope that these serve as some sort of help for you to encouragement or motivation for you to study as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. And now I just want to see where we are with questions. So I appreciate I didn't advertise this at all, and I only decided last minute. In fact, we just finished with everything and the guests had gone. My wife said, "Are you going to do your live?" And I said, "Oh, you know what, I was not sure. I didn't really want to put pressure on the family. I wanted to see, so I was prepared not to do the live, but now I'm here and we finished. I'm glad that I could be with you." Okay, so I see your question. Do you let's see, do you have some conversation class? I don't have a conversation class myself per se, but at the Polyglot Conference website, you can actually sign up, register still, and there are conversation groups that go on throughout the entire year. There are for quite a few languages actually, but I know off the top of my head that they have German, they have French, they have Dutch, they have Polish, I think Arabic, Chinese, I think Japanese, Korean. There are quite a few languages that are on offer, I think, and you're very, very welcome to join in, because that environment is open. It's a ticket that's voluntary basis if you want to pay, or if you want to just you can donate towards the running costs of the conference generally, or you can apply for a free ticket. But if you just click on the register button on the Polyglot Conference website, and you're there. If you have any problems, let me know, and we'll see what we can figure out. But you can also suggest things that you want to happen. So, for example, if you want to have your own class, your conversation class in the environment, then I'm happy to facilitate that for you too. So, but yeah, I may or may not do some of these events actually in the live environment. Some of the things that I'm talking about, these sessions where we sort of answer questions and do Q&A sessions and things, I may do some of those in the live environment, because I think it might be a natural place to do it. How you can improve your English speaking skills. It's a whole live on its own. Practicing is good. You're here listening to me, so that's good for you to take your listening practice. But speaking it, there are lots of people who speak English online, and I'm sure that you'll be able to find language partners. Definitely, there are many opportunities to practice English. It's one of the most commonly spoken or studied second language, the most commonly studied second language in the world. And I would think that, yeah, you would find language groups or places like on Clubhouse where you can practice your English. It's very easy on Clubhouse. So you could just download the app and go on Clubhouse and go into any room you want. You can use Twitter Spaces. You can use the Facebook Spaces, I guess. Now they're all open as well. So there are many places where you can practice your English. It's probably one of the easier languages to practice. Okay, the name of the website, I'm just going to pop that in here now, is Polyglot Conference. Just a second, I'll just type this in for you in the chat in Instagram. 1 second, polyglotconference.com. And that's where you can go to the website to sign up. There will be other events in there as well. So once you've signed up for the Polyglot Conference, there are actually other events that we'll have throughout the year. So we'll most likely do something for the International Day of Languages, and for a Mother Tongue Day and multilingualism, the Day of Multilingualism. We also have a number of other things that we can run from there. So we will do other things, and UTalk and Langfest organize monthly quizzes in there as well. So you'll be able to do quite a lot of stuff from there. Okay. You prefer Link, Ellery? Yes. I have used Link. I'm not using it at the moment, but I have used it. I went through all of their stories in all of the languages that they have last summer. I decided that I would go through all of their stories. Some of the stories are recorded with high quality audio and have all 60 stories. Other stories have fewer stories available. Some of them only around 30, I think, like half. I think Hebrew was one of the ones that only had half of them. And some of them had audio quality that wasn't amazing, in places where people were sniffing or coughing or making tea in the background or something. But otherwise, generally, yeah, I really like the Link. I really like Link, and I like I like what they have there. But yeah, definitely a good resource. Dan, you're almost at the same place as me. What you're finding tough is that they're too easy to complete one set and still not ready to remember the words. Yeah, there's not enough repeat for you. For the words in Swahili, there are certainly, I think some of the problem is the word choices are an issue in Swahili because they're such odd words sometimes. It does get a bit weird when you're sort of doing it. And I think sometimes the prefixes for the singular and plural nouns sometimes does get in the way. Today in my lesson in Swahili, actually, we talked about the mi class, which was, so you like mto, which is the word for a river or a pillow. And to make it plural, you have mi, so mito. Mito is rivers or pillows. And I found it useful talking through those with Glory because it made it more memorable for me. Also, hearing them in class and then hearing them on the app has really been good. In the beginning, I've got to be honest, like I've had a number of bits of vocabulary that Glory's been through with me that I haven't met on Duolingo yet. And I found that a little bit confusing in the beginning. Like we went through the numbers and we went through days of the week, months of the year, and stuff, which I haven't done on the app yet. And I find those difficult to remember. But what I'm doing is treating that as a preparation for doing them on the app, so that hopefully they will stick better when I do it. If you're listening to watching the videos too, Dan, hopefully that will help you to make them more memorable. I'm trying to introduce the words from the app on Duolingo into my lessons as well. So you'll hear this time, for example, I did introduce the words that are in this M category on Duolingo, like you see mizizi. Mizizi is roots in Swahili, but it doesn't tell you what the singular is. So I was interested in making sure that I'd understood what the singular was, and the singular is mzizi with just an M. And I remember that word in a very odd way because it sounds like a kind of a childish sort of French word for the male anatomy, and so zizi is this word in French, and for the male anatomy, and it's a root. So I think the shapes are quite similar. So it's kind of, it helps me to remember with really silly stories like this. But generally, yeah, there are words that are particularly difficult to remember and retain. I'm finding the word for potato difficult to retain. I can't think of it at the moment. Ndizi is the word for banana, and I found that hard in the beginning. I kept mistaking it for rice, which isn't ndizi. It's another word. Mkate, I found hard as well for bread. So I found some of the names of food and vegetables and stuff and fruits difficult. And other ones, I don't know why, but I found it easy. Nguzi, which is a goat, I found fairly easy to remember. And we talked about the word nguzi today. Nyama ya nguzi. is goat meat. It comes up in Duolingo, but also we talked about it today in class. But yeah, it takes time, and look, you will forget as well. You forget things and you'll come back to them. It's normal. David, you do sympathize with my views on gamification. It can be fun and motivating, but people forget quickly and don't go back to absolutely. Okay, click on present and tips. Yeah, Dan, I'll have to have a look on the for the tips on the grammar. Thank you for mentioning that though. Happy holidays. Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you too. You highly you highly recommend using the website instead of the app. I'll have a look at that. It seems that there are definitely other things. How do you compare your progress with Speakly versus using Duolingo with Swahili, aside from the conversations that you have? Okay, so the easy comparison to make is that first of all, I did 4 hours, 4 hours a day on Speakly of Estonian, and at the end of a month, I did this TV interview, right? And I could get by in a basic conversation in Estonian without too many issues. I could make a direct comparison to a language I've been studying for a year on a course and doing sort of chat sessions online, which was Cornish, which I'd got to a point where I could again communicate my ideas in a basic way. And my Estonian and my Cornish were comparable. 1 month versus 1 year of studies, right? And Cornish is similar to Welsh, and Estonian is similar to Finnish. And I studied Finnish a long time ago, but still my Finnish isn't extremely good. Whereas, okay, I can speak Welsh to a lot better degree than I can Finnish. And so it was kind of weird feeling that. When I think about Duolingo and where I am, the first thing would be to say that Speakly uses and prioritizes language that you're most likely to hear. Whereas Duolingo doesn't seem to do that. Yes, it uses vocabulary in the beginning, like how to say, hello, greetings, and things like that. But I can't imagine that I'm going to need to say Ninawasha Jiko, which means I light the stove. I can't imagine being in a situation where I'm going to need to say in Tanzania, if I go there, that I need to light the stove right away. I can even say I need to light the stove in Swahili. It feels weird that I can say that in Swahili. And I can't say something way more basic, maybe. I can't think of an example. I can't talk about anything about the weather or how the weather was today, for example. I can't say that yet, but I can say I like the stove, or I want to light the stove. I can say, or I like lighting the stove. I can say things like that. So that feels a bit weird. Whereas in Estonian, the words were prioritized. Now, there was something a bit weird with Estonian, because in Speakly, what they do is they do it by how likely you are to come across them, the words. And strangely enough, they don't teach you all of the days of the week in the order that you'd expect. You learn the one that's most frequently used in sort of conversations on the radio, written down. And strangely enough, there is a pecking order for them. And I don't remember which one it was. I've got a feeling it was Monday was the first one I came across. But I could be wrong. Es más bello. And I think it was that. But the weird thing is with Speakly is that because I did it in a month and I did quite a lot of hours, very quickly I did meet all of the days of the week. I could speak about the weather. I could speak about what I was doing. I could speak about my family. I could speak more or less about my work, and it didn't feel too unnatural. It felt quite natural. The other thing with Speakly versus Duolingo is that when you finish a segment in Speakly, you basically get to these dialogues that are dialogues using the vocabulary you've learned, some vocabulary that you haven't yet met, but just enough to make it comprehensible input. And then what you do is you have to see how much you understand and then try and reproduce one half of the dialogue. that's one thing. The second thing that you do is you have these live conversations in Speakly that are sort of live language moments where you may have a story, you may have someone telling you something about something else, and using the same types of vocabulary. And they were pretty good because they used really normal vocabulary and very normal sentences that you'd expect to use, reproduce, and hear. The other thing that they have on Speakly are music recommendations and things like that, so that you feel that you're getting in touch with the actual culture. With Duolingo, you don't really have anything like that. It all feels a bit sort of detached. And the only reason I feel a bit more attached to the language is because I think of the lessons with Glory at the same time. I mean, I would always recommend if your goal is to speak a language, you need to do something to speak it, right? You can't just sort of cross your fingers and hope that it's going to happen. And as I've been telling people, just because I have this accent and I speak English doesn't mean I come from Hogwarts, and it doesn't mean I can wave a magic wand and make anybody speak a language. It's just not what happens. It's certainly, it's certainly, a challenge. But yeah, they're my general thoughts on the differences between the two systems. I saw some of your old videos where you were at Esplanade in Helsinki talking Finnish. Yes, your Finnish seemed quite okay for a beginner. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I got to around about an A2-ish level in Finnish. I studied Suomen Mestari, which is the course book at the University of Helsinki, and I studied the first book on my own at home, and then I jumped into the second level, and I did the second level and in Estonia, in Helsinki. So I was there, and we did the second book, and I think I started the third book. There are 4 books in total for Suomen Mestari, and so when I was in Finland, I spoke Finnish to people. I mean, it wasn't as good as their English, but they were very kind and let me speak to them and allow me to practice and helped me and encouraged me. My experience was actually very positive in Finland, actually using my Finnish. And I used it a lot, especially for getting around. So yeah, I was quite comfortable with that kind of level, but it was definitely an A2-ish level that I was at. And at A2, you can get around. And if you practice the A2 material enough, you can make it feel and sound quite fluent. And people will often say, "Oh, it sounds like you're more like a B." No, I was definitely an A2 level student for Finnish. I definitely hadn't really hit the B levels at that point, and still haven't. But yeah, I did get to that point with it. Oh, thank you. Great personal mentor. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Nice name for a textbook. Yeah, I like it as well. So I'm amazed that it's nice. Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions here. Do you have any tips on improving German grammar skills and sentence construction? Duo seems a bit slow on this, at least for me. It's all about spotting the patterns in the language. This is one thing that I found quite good on Speakly. For Estonian, it was pretty good, but Estonian grammatical constructions and the nouns would change quite a lot with the cases. So German, they don't change as much, but they do change. So actually, this is where I think that Speakly does a better job, because it teaches you the grammar intuitively. You don't necessarily sit there and learn tables. You can click very easily on and look at more information and find the tables if you want, but you get to learn the language in a very natural way. This is how I learned German when I was in Germany. I honestly, I didn't sit down too much and sit and sort of learn things, but I did go through the sort of books and things where I would see patterns, and seeing the patterns is really important. So patterns is really good. I think it's good to have a language partner. This is where I think with languages like that, it's good to have a language partner. Seeing patterns, for example, if we go back to the link stories, for example, link stories in German are pretty good. They're, I don't know if it's an Austrian speaker. I may be wrong. At the moment, I'm trying to think of who it was that did the link stories, but speaks very clearly anyway. Just a bit of a, yeah, I've got a feeling there was a bit of an Austrian lilt to the accent, but I'm not 100% sure right now. It was a while ago when I heard it. But yeah, maybe that might be a way of doing it as well. Going to sort of link stories. Link is quite good at showing you the language in situ with the audio, and trying to replace words that are applicable to you, changing them for what you need, and manipulating the language in that way. When you get used to doing that with a certain number, you can start, this number of words, you can start switching words in and out. And it's amazing how it turns into kind of these Lego bricks that you just put together and you put on each other. And this is kind of how it goes with, for me, with grammar. And then you sort of pick up and start seeing the patterns, and that's how I do it generally. Привет, привет, Irene. Nice to see you. Okay, love it. Okay, let me see. Join Duolingo after watching your Swahili lessons. Oh wow, okay. I didn't think that anybody would be joining Swahili as a result of me doing this. I thought that everybody would have already seen Swahili and seen me afterwards. I didn't think that I would be introducing anyone to Swahili, but it's really nice that you've joined and that you're looking at it as well. Yeah, I'm going to write a full blog post about my experience and sort of some of the things that I've discussed here, and include them so that I sort of have a summary of what I think of Duolingo and where it does well and where it does a little less well. Where it's, because everything's got its strengths, right? And every one of us and everything out there we all have places where we can make improvements. And Duolingo's the same. I've definitely learned words that I would not have learned otherwise. I don't think I would have learned mea, plant, or nche, sapling, or nto, the river that I talked about before. They're not words that I would normally learn straight away at this stage, but hey, here I am. Jiko is good because it's the word for a kitchen and a stove. And now I'm practicing them with you so that I remember them more easily. So thank you for being my practice people for Swahili. I'm a little behind in the stream, but wanted to point out that if you log onto Duolingo in a browser, you can see grammar explanations. That's what it's like for Arabic. Not very convenient. Okay, so yeah, this is a thing as well. Within an app, it can be a little bit difficult, I guess, to design how the app shows all of the information. I guess that's something, with app design and as usability, and I don't know in terms of where app designers go to for this, whether they design them themselves or whether they're actual users of the app or language learners themselves. But maybe there's a job there for some people in the language learning community. Who knows? I know sort of app design in terms of how things look is something that Lindy looks at as well. But I don't know how far and how deep that goes into to her work. So yeah, that's really all I had to say today. I'm really, really glad that you could join me. If there are any other questions, I'm very happy to answer. I guess that because I didn't announce this, none of you were expecting to come and to hear me talk. So I didn't have any questions coming into this that I wouldn't usually have for these live sessions. But I'm very, very happy to come on again. I guess next week is possible. I have to check the dates, but I think it should be possible to join next week and to have another update. It would be quite nice to do maybe the 4 updates on the lives for Swahili, so I can sort of show you where I get to and how it's going and answer questions. yeah, I mean, that's really where I am. Let me see. Oh, there are some questions here. I just missed them. I have a French tutor from South Africa. Her native language is Swahili. I don't make use of her talents enough, but you are moving me along in Swahili. I'm really pleased about that, Irene. That's really nice. Let me see. John E. Eva. I'm a little behind the screen. Okay, I just read that one. Watching you learn Swahili is motivating and fun. It reminds me of my first struggles in language learning. Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. My goal is to share the whole process of what I go through and what I'm using. I don't really want to pretend what I do or hide anything. I want it to be very out in the open so that you understand the kinds of things I go through. You'll see in the lessons as well. I make many mistakes. I forget things. I mispronounce things. I say the wrong word sometimes in the wrong place. And sometimes it's due to technology. Sometimes it's just due to strange wiring in my brain. Sometimes that I see different things and say different things, and that's normal. And it's normal to forget, and it's normal not to know certain things. It's normal to need to repeat things often and to play with the language a lot. And I hope that you see me doing all of those things, all of the mistakes I make, and all of the efforts and tries that I put into the lessons to try and produce language that makes sense to my teacher and therefore to anyone who speaks Swahili. By extension, I hope that you see that, and you hope that you see that I enjoy that process and I don't get embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. I'm very, very happy to make mistakes. I'm very happy to get things wrong because getting things wrong means that I'm starting to build memories for making mistakes memorable to then get them right later. And I'm a great believer in, you know, not worrying about what other people think or how I sound or anything like that. It's completely normal for me to sound terrible and to not get the pronunciation quite right. I mean, the other day I was in one of the Swahili lessons and I kept saying vizuri, and it sounds Italian when I keep saying vizuri, and it still is very Italian. This is just the plural of nzuri, which is we were trying to say um, vitabu vizuri. So literally good books. Kitabu is the word for a book, and the plural is vitabu, and nzuri is the word for good. But then with kitabu, it goes to kizuri in the singular, so kitabu kizuri, and then in the plural, it goes to vitabu vizuri. But when I say vizuri, I still feel like I'm saying an Italian word in my throat and in my head, and I kept saying it all the time, thinking I sound so Italian when I'm saying this, and I don't mind. It's just really funny to notice, and you notice things about how you say it, right? And it's been really good. So, any questions you have, any thoughts you have, any feedback you have, I'm very open to it, and I'm very happy to do what I can to help you all with your language journeys as well. Um, Swahili has many Arabic words. It does indeed. Even the name of the language. Uh-huh. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, Swahili. Okay. I was born in South Africa. Uh, okay, and what's that? The soon we moved to, but oh, to Italy. Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to hear from you and to see what you think and get your feedback and get your thoughts and get your questions. So please keep in touch with me and yeah, let me know if there's anything I can help with. I'll do my best, and yeah, remember to do the whole liking, sharing, um, following, whatever it is you do. And I will look forward to seeing you again next week. You don't think I sound Italian? Swahili is not a Romance language. No, it's not. But because the word vizuri sounds like it could be an Italian word, um, I think that's why. Where can I find your interview on Estonian TV? Daniel, I think it's just on Facebook, the interview on Estonian TV. It's if you write in, I think it's Ringvada. So let me just see if I can find it for you, and I will pop it into the chat on what's it called? I'll put it into the chat here now. Here, Ringvada, here it is. Here's the one. So that's I think it's included in there in the Estonian news. But basically, if you're listening and you want to find it and you haven't seen the link, it's if you put in Richard Simcott into Google and add in Ringvada, which is spelt Ringvaade, Ringvada. Okay, Ringvada. Ringvada. Okay, and then you can find it. It's the first thing that comes up in Google. So you can see they've got a version in English and also in Estonian. So yeah. What do I do to maintain Spanish? I use Spanish quite a lot for work and for and at home. So it's one of my home languages, Spanish. So that's kind of what I do. I don't really do much else. I used to live in Spain, and I studied as a Spanish speaker in Spain. So I studied as a Spanish first language speaker at university in Madrid, and so yeah, I was not as a foreign student, but that was my home university. I was studying business there, so it's one of those languages that I've studied quite a lot, and I've lived with people who speak Spanish a lot, and so this is, yeah, it's quite a natural language for me to speak. Sorry, it's off topic, but when you learn another language, do you find you also tend to learn, for instance, with Italian, the gesticulations? I've noticed a few JP learners take on, Japanese learners take on mannerisms. Absolutely, yeah, Japanese mannerisms. Yeah, you can, of course. So, for example, in the Netherlands, I got very used to going lekker, and that means like just doing this means it's tasty in Dutch in the Netherlands. So you just end up going, ooh, lekker. It's nice and tasty. It is weird how you pick these things up. You just get very used to it. We actually at university we had lessons on hand gestures in Italian, because they thought it was good to introduce us to as many as possible. But yeah, I do, absolutely. And in Spain, I got very used to tutting. So like, which as an English speaker from the UK, it sounds rude in the UK to tut. Sounds really rude, but it just means no in Spanish. And so I got used to going, and I got very used to it. It didn't seem rude anymore. It's quite weird when you do that. Okay, I don't even remember the word in Swahili, but every time you pronounced J as T, and the teacher didn't correct you, it was so enjoyable in a strange way. Yeah, do you know, it's weird you say this, John, with the word J, right? With the letter J. I'm still not 100% on how I'm pronouncing it and how I should be pronouncing it. It's something I'm going to have to work on a little bit. I am very conscious of that, actually. So it's funny you've noticed it, because I am conscious of it. So it comes in quite a few things, like G. We learned it today in G, which is like the reflexive particle in Swahili. So, for example, you would have, trying to think of a word that I can use. Yeah, one of the words that she used was cooking itself. So pika is to cook, kupika is to cook, pika is the sort of base form. So you have kuji pika, which would be like to cook it itself. So you could have, for example, yeah, and so for example, ki. If you were talking about a certain thing that cooked itself, you could say kina ji pika, which would mean it is cooking itself, depending if it's a K noun class word. And yeah, I do hear myself going like a J sound, and when I hear her, she doesn't quite say it as a J sound. one of the words is, she'll say, like, the word for one is moja. And I hear her say moja or moja, and I'm saying moja. And I don't know if it's dialect or whatever it is, but I'm sure I keep hearing moja in some of the recordings, which is why I keep saying moja. But then when she says it, it doesn't sound like that. We'll see. I'll get to the end of it. I'll get to the bottom of it at some point. I noticed some of the words in dialect Persian in the south of Iran come from Swahili, especially most of the family members. Oh, wow, okay. It's interesting. Also, it's really interesting things. Jambo. So, okay, so I'm saying jambo, and it's I think it might be jambo. I'm not sure. Hu jambo, si jambo, ham jambo, hawa jambo. All of these words. It's a cool word, actually. I like the jambo. But yeah, I'm still not 100% whether it's a dialect that I'm hearing on the audio that's different, whether I'm hearing incorrectly, or whether it's the way she speaks that's different. I have no idea. No idea. There's some channels on YouTube, Easy Something. Do you recommend those channels? They have subtitles too. Yeah, so the easy languages, like easy Turkish, easy German, easy whatever. Yeah, people seem to really enjoy those, and they say they get a lot out of them at different levels as well. So yeah, I mean, the ones I've seen, I follow Easy German on TikTok, just because there weren't that many language channels to follow in the beginning when I first joined TikTok, and I follow them on TikTok, and I actually quite like what they do. So Easy German is quite interesting, actually. It's not just about the language always as well. Like, one of them, they went around with a Dutch phrase to see how many Germans understood the Dutch, and it was funny how few of them actually did. In fact, only one person really understood most of it. And the phrase was in Dutch, wil je, what was it? Wil je lopen of fietsen naar de winkel? So literally it means, do you want to walk or cycle to the shop? And in German, actually it's very difficult to see what that is. One person was able to hear that lopen, which is to walk, is like laufen, and they could hear the etymology there. But fietsen, for example, they couldn't. And there is another word in Dutch actually for a fiets. Fiets is a bike. There's also vrijwiel, but they use that in near where I lived in Germany, actually, in that part. But I don't know how common it is in anywhere else. I've never heard it in Ronstad, where I used to live. But that one is possibly easier for people in that part of Germany to understand. But then Winkel was also actually turned out to be the hardest word for them to understand, because Winkel is a word for shop in Dutch, but some people guessed it was kind of like in the area, in the echo. They thought it was quite interesting to hear their guesses for two languages that really we'd think would be quite close and are in a number of ways, and some phrases would be simpler, but yeah, it's interesting. The reason for the similarities between Swahili and Persian is usually because they both have borrowed a lot from words from Arabic. Yeah, absolutely. So this is why we have the same words as well in Macedonian. So they have the word, they use the word sa. I don't think they use saat, but we use the word saat for an hour or a watch in Macedonian, as well as obviously from Turkish, but Turkish from Arabic, and it also went into Swahili. Other words that I know right now that, for example, are in from Arabic, daqiqa, which is the word for a minute in Arabic, is dakika in Turkish, and also in Swahili, and also in Persian. We didn't borrow that word into Macedonian. We do have the word sokak, which is the word for sokak in Turkish, which is kind of a road, but a small road. In Macedonian, it means a small road. So we do have a number of words like that as well through. And then you have words like alat, which is means a tool in Turkish, and then it goes into Indonesian. So Indonesian also has borrowings from these languages from Arabic. So in Indonesian, alat is also a tool. And then you have a word like dunya, which is also in Indonesian, in Persian, I think, as well. Dunya for world, Turkish, Arabic, and Swahili. We don't have that word in Macedonian. We don't use the word dunya. I don't think people would understand it. Maybe in some older generations may have understood it, but not the people here now. I'm not sure it's a regional pronunciation. Yeah, there's something about with a language like Swahili. It's spoken in a number of countries, so there could be some differences in pronunciation. Absolutely. In African languages, there are a lot of words like njambo, pronounced with a J. Maybe this is yeah, it could be. I'm using it jambo jambo. It also could be because that word is a word that we've used in English and we've heard. So jambo jambo, and it's more like a j sound to make it more like how would you say it in English? So it could be that. Right, I will disappear now. It was nice to speak to you all. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to reading your comments, questions, and to speaking to you again next week. Feel free to give me a like, give me a follow, share, whatever it is you do to help spread the word about languages and learning them. And if I can help anyone with languages, I'm very, very happy to do what I can to do that, make that possible. And all the best for your language learning. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.